for all the match strikers.
This is Spiritual Pyro.
All right. So I'm really excited about what we're talking about today.
I know today feels like actually just sitting around the bonfire telling stories.
It does. It just has like this, like, I don't know, a little bit softer, a little bit easier, and just stories that live in our bones. Like stories that come from us, that have been shared with us in our own families and legacies.
And also as a response to the stories that people are sharing with us through these first handful of episodes, I think what's been so beautiful is everybody at different ages and stages of life. There's not just one type of listener. There's older women and younger women. There's the college girl. There's the new mom. There's the friend living overseas. There's the neighbor living down the street. It's just such a variety of women who have shared their experiences. And I think that just speaks to these stories that have been swirling for us and around this fire.
The reality is that we come from a long line of women who have found their own ways to really write the story of their lives in the best ways that they could over time, right? Then we talk about the stories that we've been handed. In many ways, that can feel heavy. That can feel like those are the stories we wade through in therapy. Those are the stories we wade through to try to kind of sort out our past, the things we want to take with us, the things we want to leave behind. But the stories that we're handed is also this really gorgeous way of looking at the legacy that we are a part of, both within our families, but also just as women. Like the legacy of women that we get to be a part of and that we get to participate in as we practice that same work of living out our stories ourselves.
Yeah, that it's usually when I hear the phrase, it's something I was handed, that feels like a pejorative. It feels automatically like it has a negative connotation. But also in therapy, we've like dug up these really beautiful stories of things that we were handed. So I think if that's like the fullness of that work, right, is unraveling what's not ours to carry, and setting that down. And then also when we strike gold and we find that thing that was handed to us that was truly pure and good and beautiful, we get to carry that with us. So whether it's, I mean, sometimes those are things from in our families, things we're raised with. Sometimes what we're handed is something beautiful from a mother or a grandmother or an auntie. And then sometimes it's outside of our lineage. It's outside of that bloodline, right? Sometimes it's a teacher or a mentor or just a friend who passes along something that then gets grafted into our bones and becomes part of us. And I think you and I have stories for all of the above, you know, the different people whose shoulders we stand on, and just recognizing that we might be the first in some ways, but we're never the first in all ways. So I don't know. I love that maybe we could tell some of those stories today and talk about the women we come from, the dragons we come from.
Yes. I can't have a conversation like this without immediately thinking of my grandmother on my mom's side. We lovingly call her Mamo, and she is
which hang on, the fact that both of us have grandmothers that we have a nickname for that is almost identical. Your Mamo, my Momo. Like that, I remember when the first time we started telling stories about our grandmothers, and that was just so funny to realize that we both have that. And maybe that's not unusual. Maybe tons of people have grandmothers with that same nickname, but I just thought that was really, really sweet. So I always have such a like secret affection for your grandmother that's just kind of like baked in.
Yep. I mean, it makes me wonder, like, for those that are listening, what nickname do you have for your grandmother? Because there are so many. I had not met anyone else who had a Momo before. It's just, it's kind of unique.
Mhm.
As is she. As is
Mhm.
she. She is the most tender-hearted, whimsical woman. And when I think about my childhood and looking at her now as an adult, there's so many pieces of her magic and her whimsy that are woven into my memories. Um, she she always had these crystals hanging from like fishing line that she would hang in her windows. So you'd get that magical afternoon light and you would just have like a kitchen full of rainbows. And I have one of them now.
That's why
She's
you
given
do
That's
that.
why I do that. Yep. Yep. She's given
Oh.
one to each of her grandkids. And now Mercy has one as well. And Emerson. And they're just this like, it's like a small handed down piece
Mm.
of whimsy, of magic, of this like, it's one of those like, it's play. It's not necessary. It's just makes everything more beautiful and more fun. And it's so funny how that is a small thing, but I have such vivid memory as a little girl of her home and always thinking it really
Mm.
was this, magical place. And she lived in the same mountains that my cabin was in, like that same
Wow.
area. She was in Sholo. And so I remember we lived in the valley, and I remember driving up the rim as a kid. And as you know, like it's just so high and
Yeah.
canyony and, just I always, sometimes it would be, you'd have these really low hanging kind of clouds, just
Mhm.
fog, this mist. And I remember I would always, as a little girl, like roll down my window and stick my hand out and like grab some of the cloud and put it in my pocket and like
Of
bring it.
course you did. Of course you did. I
I would
love that.
bring it to my grandma and, and it's nothing, but I'm just like, I brought you
Right.
some cloud. I brought you some cloud. And she would just, oh, it's so gorgeous. And it's so, it's that there's
Mm.
this sort of childlike, why not let it be beautiful? And,
Mhm.
I don't know. It's a really beautiful thing. So there's that piece of her that I carry with me that shaped a lot of really sweet memories from my childhood.
Mhm.
And knowing so much more of her story now as a woman, looking at all she had to navigate through her life and the ways that she found to do that without losing that
Yeah.
beautiful part of her and choosing to hand down those types of memories and stories rather than some of the other heavier pieces of her life.
Mhm.
I just have such a deep appreciation and affection for her and who she is in my memories as my grandmother, but also so much respect for her as
Mm.
a woman navigating the world, at a time when women didn't have much say. They had
Yeah.
less say than they even do now in this country. And I don't know. She's wonderful and she's still with us. I'm so thankful for
Mhm.
that. So she's still
Mhm.
someone I can reach out to and carry with me in this life now.
Yeah. Your photos every time you have a chance to spend time with her are some of my favorite pieces of your creativity. Like your words, your painting, but your photos of her and the way that you talk about her skin and the map lines is just I don't know. I mean, like I could see like that could be like an exhibit someday, honestly. Like those photos are pretty incredible. Um when you talk about knowing more of her story now as a woman and you still get to um spend time with her and interact with her. I think about my Momo, which her name was Mona. And so her influence in my life was when I was young because she actually died so young. She died in her mid 50s from a long battle with lung cancer. And, you know, she's the reason I've never smoked a cigarette. Not because I was ever following rules, but just because as a young girl, I watched her body suffer from the effects. And that became something that was so intrinsically woven into me just because that was so difficult to lose her so early. And it was it was brutal, right? So her death was something that was part of my younger years, but her legacy and the things that I remember are her on the open road as as a single woman later in life. And she lived in this massive RV by herself. And she spent her days on the open road, driving all the way up the coast to see friends, driving to our house, driving to my aunt and uncle's house, and then driving to the beach. And there is this sense of adventure and sense of this like nomadic spirit that when I look back at her, I think, oh, like, I think that's where I got it from. This like desire to just be constantly on the move and in search of adventure and that outdoor open road life that is just always calling to me. I really do feel like that's part of her legacy in me. And I remember, my early love for the ocean came from being with her and staying in that RV over on the beach. And it was not fancy. It was perfect. It was this like only what you need, only what you can carry, like put it on your back kind of life. And I was so enamored with it. So as a woman now, hearing my parents tell stories of her life, she was this adventurous woman, but she also, that part of her life was out of necessity. She decided how she was going to define that as a result of the things that she had to live through and survive and the circumstances she was handed. So I really resonate with that. And actually just recently, what's been really sweet is that she had a extensive turquoise collection. I know you and I share that love of turquoise being handed down in our families. And there's key pieces of hers that my mom has that I like have dibs on. There's very few I'm like, that one's mine. And we do that in my family. Some people think it's morbid, but I'm like, no, like we have very specific intentions for the things that are being handed down. But recently, Carson had a birthday and my mom had gifted her a piece of turquoise in a new jewelry box. And that piece of turquoise was something that was being handed down. And she had done that for my niece as well. And so it's been really beautiful to see, not only do I have some pieces from my grandmother, but now my daughter's being given some of those pieces, some of those talismans, right? From that open road, from that adventurous spirit, from this place, from the Southwest. So anyway, I love that. I love knowing that that the part of her that I resonate with most is the part of her that came after really hard things, that she got to decide what came next. And she did for as long as she had. And even though that now I think, oh my gosh, mid-50s, like that's not that far off. That's crazy. When I was in elementary school, I still felt like she was older and she was my grandmother. But now I think about it and I'm like, she was in her mid-50s. And yet there was a full life that that is part of mine. It's in my bones. So when I crave that open road and I'm, taking a road trip or, just a day trip or something like that, there's part of her that I take with me.
That is so beautiful. I didn't know that story about Carson. I love that so much.
Oh, I know that was just recently. It was just a couple of weeks ago.
That is so sweet and so beautiful. I can't wait. Mm-hmm. I can't wait to be able to pass down some pieces to Mercy as well. I've learned to appreciate also, number one, turquoise jewelry is my favorite. And so I'm very, very glad that of all the things that could be handed down to me, that is what she has chosen to give to me. I cherish it. And I choose very intentionally to wear it in my life, it's almost like carrying a piece of her with me. And the idea of women passing down specifically jewelry from woman to woman, that way of caretaking in a time when women didn't have much and couldn't get
Mm-hmm.
access to much. But it's almost a way of making sure if they needed help, if they needed support, that they could find a way to financially protect or provide for themselves. And that feels so just sort of like underground revolutionary,
Yeah.
right? Like that's so empowering at a time, and what a creative way to be empowered and to empower. And now, of course, it's become this beautiful heirloom tradition that represents so much. But to really think that in other times, the ways that these pieces came to be came from different types of stories, right? Different intention. The jewelry, the passing down, is this way of saying, this is a way I can pass some empowerment on to you. And now it's become this gorgeous sentiment of memory keeping and the heritage of that.
I actually recently have also been thinking about how we do that for each other as friends too. I think there's also something to be said for the gifting of jewelry among women, even if it's not passed down, even if it's not within a family, that there's an intimacy and friendship when we give each other jewelry. And I feel like that is something that has been really beautiful as well. And I'm thinking back to when I went on that big solo trip and I brought you back a bracelet that had a black pearl. And it was like, it wasn't about how expensive it was. It was a piece of that big moment for me, and wanting to make sure that you had something of that from that moment as well, was a sharing of that experience. And then I also remember, I remember when you gave me the necklace. I mean, honestly, a long time ago now, the necklace that had the little matchstick on it.
Oh, yes.
And it had the matchstick charm. And it was like, there was so much foreshadowing there that, we hadn't even like fully leaned into that imagery for ourselves yet. But just those early days of striking the match, and how that was already such a part of the DNA of the work that we were doing together. But yeah, I don't know. So yes to handing things down and heirlooms, and also bringing each other in on that, as women, as in friendship, in the communities that we're a part of. That's equally beautiful and special. Okay, tell another story. Let's keep telling stories. Tell a story. Well, whatever you want.
Okay, so I have this very specific memory of my mom. So the summer between when I graduated high school and I started college, I took a trip with my mom. We were living in Arizona, and the school I was going to be attending was in California. So we took this like 6-hour road trip to the coast, and we got so lost. We were using like a map, like a paper map. And we're both terrible at direction. Okay, we're going west. There's only so far west you can go before you're going to find ocean, right? Which is exactly what we did. We inevitably eventually ended up at the Pacific and completely missed all of our off ramps, and ended up, it was sunset. It was dusky. It was kind of like past that really bright orange poppy sunset and into the kind of, like not quite indigo skies yet, but there.
Mm-hmm.
And
blue hour.
Yeah, blue hour. And I remember feeling really anxious. Like, we've already missed. We're so late. What are we doing? And my mom, she just got out of the car and started walking toward the water. And I took off my shoes and kind of chased after her. She didn't even wait to like roll up her jeans. She just stepped into the waves and her pants got soaked like up to her knees. And I like rolling up my pants and coming in after her and just had this moment. We really didn't say anything, but I remember, you know, I'm 18 years old and I'm watching my mom and I'm looking at her face and the, you know, the salt spray in her hair. And she just had this contented, happy, almost childlike expression on her face. And I remember so viscerally this moment of seeing her and seeing her in such a much more full, like in the fullness of her in a way that felt like looking not just at my mom and not just as a daughter looking at a mom, but really woman to woman in a way. It was this really profound for me shaping moment of not yet having the maturity or scope of life to really be able to appreciate the depth and nuance of her, but having a sense for the first time that there's so much more to this woman than I know. And a really appreciation for it, where it wasn't just my mom and we're on this trip and whatever. It was this moment of her taking the opportunity to really almost like be embodied, which I didn't get to see very much of her as embodied growing up. And it was profound. It was obviously so profound that it's something that I remember to this day.
Wow. Like that moment when you realize that your mom is a woman, not just your mom. Like that she's a woman apart from you, I think is not only so profound about her, but also like that's a pivotal point in our own minds when we go, oh, you mean like you have your own experiences apart from me or outside of me, you know? It's like, because as kids, we just think everything's about ourselves, right? So, that's really beautiful, actually. I love knowing that her pants were soaked up to her knees, you know? And it was like, she didn't even wait for you. She was like, gotta go.
Gotta go see about a girl.
She was going to see about a girl.
Oh, I love that. I do.
Forever and love that.
I had brought with me like a single-use camera. You didn't have with the camera on it. And I brought a single-use camera with me. And after that
Those
moment,
are the days.
Yeah, right? Honestly, in some ways, like
they're making a comeback.
I saw that. I did see that. I'm like, I'm bored with that. My kids are like, how do you use this? Like,
I know.
Oh,
yeah.
honey.
Like the college honeys like are buying the little point and shoot regular cameras that are just have the little digital screen, and they think they're so cute with those. It's so funny.
They are so cute. I'm so here for it.
It's so cute. Yep.
Yeah. But I had someone walking on the beach. I'd asked them to take a picture of my mom and I, because I wanted to remember that exact moment. And it's one of my most cherished pictures. And one of the things that I didn't realize, because of course, then you have to go take the camera in and you got to get it developed. And then a couple days later, you can pick up your pictures and you're so excited. And sometimes you order doubles and sometimes you don't, but you should always order doubles. I'm just going to tell you that. It's like 50 extra cents.
I was always known for ordering doubles, and everybody always wanted my doubles. But don't you remember that phrase? Can I get your doubles? Can I get your doubles? Like that was like a part of our language back then. Can I get your doubles?
I feel like we should bring it back. I feel like we need to bring that one back. But this photo of her, I remember kind of pulling it out of the stack, you know, the Walgreens stack, and having this moment of just sort of awe, because in the photo it sounds so simple, but we were standing the same way. Like we had this same like kind of little, it's so signature my mom, the way she stands. And I, up until that point, had no idea that I also have that stance. And it was just, again, matching that memory that I had, that I carry with me now, of her with her feet in the Pacific and this kind of magical, whimsical, again, part of the legacy of what her mother gave her and she gave me is that moment of beauty and joy. And let your pants get soaked with a little bit of ocean. Like let your hair get all tingly and wild. Just like let yourself. What would happen if you let yourself, right?
Oof. Yeah. Yeah. What would happen if you rolled the windows down and just let your hair go crazy? Oh, I love that. When I think about a memory about my mom, I think about how often as a kid I would roll my eyes when I would complain about something and she'd be like, write a letter. And I was like, ugh, I just want to complain about something. I just, and she'd be like, stop complaining unless you're going to do something about it. Write a letter. And of course, like actual pen and paper, right? Born in 77, so this is like early 80s. I'm, being taught very specifically that that my voice can create change. And I remember very specifically, and it's a story I love to tell because I just think it's so precious as a young kid. The biggest thrill of the day was getting to race out to the playground at school and flip around on the bars. And I was good at it, right? And I was also really resentful of the fact that the boys got to wear shorts and the girls couldn't wear shorts. So we either had to be really hot wearing pants or we had to wear skirts. And nobody could do all the cool moves on the bars if they're wearing skirts, right? So like there was this like conviction inside of me that as a first grader that we needed to be able to wear shorts too. If the boys could wear shorts, we needed to be able to wear shorts. And here's why. So anyway, my mom was like, well, write a letter. So here's little first grade Corey in her best penmanship, writing a letter to the principal. Shout out Susan Soroki, if you're still around. Writing a letter to the principal, basically presenting my case. And what do you know? This woman invites me to have lunch in her office to discuss. So here's a first grader, and I'm having lunch in the principal's office, which was such an honor because I tried very hard to not go to the principal's office otherwise. So here's me having lunch with the principal, explaining to her my cause, explaining to her why this was so important. And I will never forget, I ended up transferring schools to go to the school that my mom taught at the next year. But I will never forget getting word back and my mom telling me that the principal had changed the dress code for that following year and girls were now allowed to wear shorts to school. And let me tell you, I was so dang proud of having been a part of changing something, but I was also like, oh, and now I don't go to that school. I mean, I could have like been wearing shorts on the playground now. I was like so bummed that I wasn't there to like celebrate on the playground wearing my shorts. Anyway, I just loved, my mom, I think for a long time, I just thought that was like a really like stellar parenting move was her telling me to write letters. But the older I got, and especially now in the conversations that we have, woman to woman, that's who she is. Like my mom found herself in principals' offices advocating for what she believed in. My mom was a lifelong educator, after a long career retired. And she was the one advocating for other people, advocating for what she believed deep in her bones was best for the school, best for the kids. She was the one on stages or at microphones, contributing in meetings and, at council sessions, things like that. That was who she was. So it wasn't just that she had this like great parenting idea to empower her kid. It really was that was part of who she was personally and professionally. And that was handed down in such a sweet way, but really a way that, again, grafted itself into my bones and became a part of who I've always been, for better, for worse, right? Like always convinced that my voice had power or that our voices collectively have the power to create change. Like it's why we're fools for hope, because we're convinced at an early age that it mattered, right? So anyway, I love that story because it's just so quintessential, little Corey, but also because it's like, oh no, I I come from dragons. Like, you know, like there's moments when I see that in my mom's eye where I'm like, oh, there it is. There she is. Like, yep, I come from that dragon too, you know?
It's one of my favorite stories about you. Like I can just picture little Corey and your best penmanship and so proud, and then getting to go have lunch with the principal. Yes. Very big deal. Very
such a big deal.
Big deal. Yes. So impressive. And but honestly, truly, so the courage of that is so impressive. Yeah. And the conviction that your mom was handing you that you can use your voice and empower yourself and move something along and move something forward that you believe in, and to try to make an effort to do something when you see something that you don't like or isn't right or you want changed, that you have capacity and capability to do something about it. What an incredible message to hand your daughter, to hand your children, but specifically your daughter.
Yeah, and even the note of like, even if we don't get to reap the benefit of it, right? Like we talk about like moving the needle forward just a little bit. It's not always this massive, you know, cycle breaking, change making moment. Like sometimes it's just this like tiny needle that gets moved forward just a little bit. And sometimes we don't even get to be the beneficiaries of it. And that's a very simplistic example of that. But I think it's really just the genuine, sweet, innocent, you know, girlhood version of that.
Yep. And we just never know what are going to be those moments and those stories that lock in and kind of sink into our bones and become grafted into who we are and the way we're going to see the world. And even that moment of my mom standing in the Pacific, she wasn't thinking, I'm going to show my daughter how to be empowered and embodied. And no, she was living it. And I just happened to be paying attention, and I grabbed that moment, right? Like we don't know. We don't always know what those moments are going to be. And I just want to say shout out to Connie, because that's an incredible story. And she's raised an incredible daughter. So well done, Connie. Write those letters, girls.
Write those damn letters. You know what though? I mean, like I'm even thinking about our girls. Like we've got some tenacious young ones, and I remember Carson writing a letter to President Obama because she really was convinced that there needed to be a kids' State of the Union. So we would always watch the State of the Union, you know, and she was like, there should be a kids' State of the Union. So she wrote a letter, and I'll never forget her getting back the like 8x10 photo of the president. And it was like on her desk, like letter from the White House. That's right. Got a letter from the White House. It was so precious. And I'm like, the Ministry of the White House aide who responds to children's letters is like the Lord's work. That is the Lord's work.
That is adorable. Oh my gosh.
That's so cute.
That's so cute.
I mean, I know we have a million stories, especially from Mercy and Carson. But.
Oh, yeah. That girl, she definitely breathes fire. Her ability to, I don't know, somehow resource a kind of courage and confidence that I am in awe of the moments when she'll call upon it, and in ways that I wouldn't have as when I was 12. I did not outwardly in the same ways that she is able to express. And I celebrate that so much, because I really do think if we're talking about like this handing down that we do as women, where we both are a recipient and a giver of that story, the ways that I wasn't able to access that type of courage and confidence, let's say at 12, watching her find ways to do that, and understanding that part of that is just her. That's her fire. Yeah. That's her dragon soul. That's her. But there's a piece of it where I've been able to hand her something that has in some way made it so that she can access much faster and easier and safer that type of bigness, that type of voice, that little part of her that's not afraid to cause some disruption, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I have another story. Do you have another story? Because I want to this is so fun. I'm loving all this storytelling.
Always more stories.
Okay. So recently I was able to have a conversation with a woman who is really largely responsible for my sense of environmentalism and my sense of what it means to be an activist. And she was my 6th grade teacher. Hi, Tess, if you're listening. And we were able to have a conversation recently where she was reminding me of some details surrounding one of my favorite stories, which was when I was young. And she's the one who had me ordering my Save the Whales patch from Greenpeace and putting it on my backpack. And I know you and I have that in common at that young age. But this woman became so well known. And again, pre-internet. So we're talking about like local news, newspaper articles, things like that. She became so well known as having been consistent in her environmentalism, activism, her as an educator, teaching her kids, involving her kids. We were very, very involved as 6th grade students in like early recycling movements. Like it was like real life application, right, of what we were learning. Well, she had been selected to be one of the people and the educator that got to fly in a helicopter up to Prince Edward Island to witness the preservation and protection of the baby harp seals. So back then, there was a lot of awareness being raised about the clubbing that was happening. It was really brutal and violent, and she had been part of awareness campaigns. I'm sure I'm missing details, but she had gone and been present for this protection of the baby harp seals up north on this island, and had gotten to see it firsthand. And she tells the story. There was an actress, a famous actress, that actually it was, she told me this the other day. It was the woman who played Hot Lips on MASH. She was like also part of this like activism effort. They were like just trying to pull all of these people who could be a voice for this effort. And she ended up like passing, this woman in the process. And she got to tell the story and she got to bring it back and share it with us. And she felt like larger than life to me at that point. Same season of life, she ends up connecting with John Denver, of all people. And she gets us, her 6th grade class of little activists, on stage with John Denver at Gamage Auditorium. And we are singing a song with him on stage. I'm larger than life. Like we're just these little kids, from Arizona. And we had this opportunity to stand with this, famous person, yes, but like really this voice for the planet and this voice for preservation and conservation. And it felt like we were bigger than life, right? Not any one of us, but the collective of us singing. I'm sure we sounded awful, bless his heart, but what a memory. And for her to have connected us in such a way that gave us access to something that was so much bigger than ourselves, so much bigger than this little fundraiser we did or this little project we had in science class. It was this big, big life that we could be a part of. And I have always loved that. And I love that she's still a part of my life. She's still someone who cheers me on and encourages me. And she's cheering us on in this work that we're doing together. And she's part of it. She's part of what was grafted into my bones early on.
Wow. That story is amazing. I feel like I knew part of it, but I don't think I ever put it all together. Like I knew you'd been on stage with John Denver. I don't think I realized that's how you got there.
Yeah, but I mean, like it was a small thing, actually. Even though it was John Denver, it was a small thing that felt so big, and I think that was really the that's the greatness of it, right? Is it's this little snapshot of her living her life, doing what she was doing anyway, and bringing us along with her, and how formative that was for me.
So profound. So one thing that I'm remembering right now, this moment, as I'm looking kind of back at my timeline, and I've been asking myself this question about, who are the women in my life who have handed me something beautiful, some type of legacy that extends beyond myself. And I have this very specific memory. It's fairly recent, really. We were back visiting my parents at the ranch in Arizona, and I had brought Mercy with me. And my parents still have horses. They've got a few, and they still ride. And so I was out at the barn with my stepmom, Jen, and Mercy was with us. And she's been taking some riding lessons. I nodded to that in one of our previous episodes that we've been getting into it. She's obsessed and loves it and would like a horse in the backyard. And I also would like a horse in the backyard. However, we live in the suburbs, so that's not going to happen. But for now, we satisfy that itch with riding lessons. So we were back at the barn, and she was so excited to show Nana, her grandma, this skill that she has, and something that she has in common with both myself and with my stepmom. And I had this moment of sitting on their big iron fence and watching my stepmom show Mercy how to put the big Western saddle, like lift it on to the back of the horse. And here's how you pick their feet. And then putting the bit in the mouth and draping the leather reins and leading the horse through to the arena. And just her and Mercy having this sweet little conversation, and really seeing so much of myself in my girl, and watching the way that my stepmom was mothering her through this moment and teaching her and sharing this moment, and having kind of an out of body where it's like, oh my gosh, this is the same ranch I grew up on. This is the same place that so much of my childhood played out at the same age as Mercy. And it was this really gorgeous thing. So and then getting to like watch her ride and watch Mercy start to find her confidence and gain more some of that courage, and go from walking to trotting, and my stepmom cheering her on. And I'm just sitting there having this moment of really just absorbing, watching this sort of this generational handing down of this love in real time. It was one of those, okay, this is one of those I'm going to remember. And in my family, we talking about cameras and pictures and all those things. Sometimes we'll just kind of do this little thing where we'll take almost like we'll do the hand motions of a camera, right? Like a little click, and it's a memory picture. And so that was definitely for me a memory picture moment of looking at that moment with my stepmom, my daughter, and myself in this place that holds so much memory for me, and watching it be handed to Mercy, who now has her own memories, her own experiences, her own love, her own sense of place within the same, dirt, within the same earth, within the same desert land. So,
gosh,
I know. There's a lot. You could tell stories. There's so many stories. But I think it's really beautiful, even as I'm thinking about what we've shared today and these stories and pieces of our lives and the women that we know and what we've been handed, and the ways that, even in what we've shared, we come from women who are cycle breaking giants, who are these dragons who change the trajectory of generations. Sometimes we come from women who survive just barely, enough to move the needle. And honestly, usually it's the both and, right? Like usually it's always, I dare to say always, it's the both and in the women that came before us, even in ourselves, in the ones that will come after us. There are pieces of our story that we might look at and go this far and no further. We will not hand this. I'm not handing this on.
Yeah.
This
sometimes we're
here.
the cycle breakers.
And sometimes we're the first ones to break.
Yeah. Sometimes what we're handed is painful and it's up to us. Right. And then sometimes what we're handed is deeply rich and beautiful. And I think that there's room for all of it. And I think it's equally revolutionary. So for the ones who are breaking the cycles and becoming giants, doing what giants do, like there's room for that. For the ones who are receiving from a long line of courage and beauty, like yes to that as well. Like aren't we the result of all those woven threads? All that both and. Like, yes. Yep, because that's also how it works.
This is also how it works.
You've been listening to Spiritual Pyro with Sarah Carter and Corinne Shark on the 1C Story Network. For more information about this and all of our stories, please visit just1c.com. That's JUSTONEC.com.
Okay, for real this time.
The 1C Story Network, for the love of stories.